The flight to Accra via Amsterdam was pretty fuss-free, but the in-flight food was crappy, as expected. I was able to revive myself with some traditional fufu and a few Gordon Sparks in a chop shop before a bush pilot flew me into an airfield by Lake Bosumtwi. With a bit of luck, I'll be at the base camp in a few hours. Looks like everyone upped and left in the night. Strange. I've got goosebumps all of a sudden, despite the heat. I'm getting something of a horrible feeling here. I'd better get a move on so I can reach the Lake Bosumtwi camp before nightfall. The craft of writing my ass. A voice recorder gets a more natural interview every time. Much more practical than rubbing sticks together. Not a multifunction tool, just a simple pocket knife without the gimmicks. Not exactly the best of the best, but it can take a usable picture and the flash is top-notch. Why am I not one bit surprised that I don't have any reception here? Airport terminal, Africa style. A little bit too rustic for my taste. Where's the air-conditioned bar and duty-free shop? Sits around all day. Probably shows up for food and fondling. Men. Lemonade. Sweet as shit and warm to boot. But even ice cold is not an option, if I want to avoid doing my figure some real harm. Well, okay, I'll take it with me. But be aware that this is non-alcoholic piss water. Hey, Dixie. Now what would those Southerners say if they knew there was a mobile toilet named after their hymn? Holy shit. If a dead fish and a tramp had a baby and the baby threw up into a dog's mouth, the dog's end product would smell better than this toilet does. Even if I had to, I would not go in there. I should maybe give it a test. Come, gather round, and have the piss taken out of you by a crazy lady with a megaphone. Ooh, I like it. A limp sock. Reminds me of my ex. You know what? Enough of that. Looks like a reliable enough contraption. It clamps two ropes together. Okay, I've caressed the screws. Now what? Crates of provisions. Well, I'm not gonna starve to death here, that's for sure. I'm not that hungry yet. It's certainly seen better days. Yarr! Sorry. It's screwed tightly to the column. The pocket knife only has this one blade, but it's extremely versatile. I can unscrew screws with it, for example. Large scratches torn into the wood. Must have been something considerably bigger than the cat over there. The camp lies northeast from here. That's where we want to be headed. Where's that perverse stink coming from? Oh, right. Pumbaa. They may be cute in cartoon form, but in the real world, those warthog tusks should not be underestimated. Okay, away we go. Sing Hakuna Matata for me then! Since we don't know each other all that well, I'm gonna be keeping my distance, okay? As long as that hog's eyeballing me, I really don't give a damn about the tree trunk. If I'm going to get to the camp, I need to drive off that wild pig. Great. He seems to be quite unaffected. I guess that act's only good for scaring off lechers in bars. And here's me thinking I had the act down pat. I suppose compared to most men, this pig is smart enough to tell the real thing from the crazy lady making cat noises in the jungle. Hello, Mr. Kitty. How about an interview? Thank you for the profound discussion. Perhaps the pig's got a cat allergy as well. Pity. Apparently not. I'll hold the megaphone close to the voice recorder speaker. Perhaps the pig's got a cat allergy as well. Pity. Apparently not. Hell, they've seen better days. Now then, any juice left in these at all? Look like they've been used. Now I'll put the used batteries into the voice recorder. Perhaps the pig's got a cat allergy as well.
Hello!
Success. I don't need a walking stick quite yet, but hey, you never know. Straight and long. Could be useful. Ants. I must have scared them up. I can't get at them with my bare hands. Just like in the adventure movies. So, what do we have? Great. The guide rope on the right-hand side of the bridge is broken. That's all I need. I can't get across with it like that. I need to repair the rope first. A prime example of a professional bodge job. It's really quite miraculous that this has stood here as long as it has. Unfortunately, I can't do much here with just my bare hands, other than strangle people with dumb ideas. If I ignore the busted guide rope and try to cross, I'll soon be acquainted with the chasm floor. There's a tool bag hanging down there. I hope nobody left it there when they took the express route to the bottom. The bag's hanging too low. I can't reach it. Nudge the bag into the abyss? I might still need it. If I'm going to attach the hook to the branch, I'm going to need something more substantial than my iron will. I'll pull out a thread. In fact, this cap is such a waste of space, I'll throw the rest away. Looks like a rod, with neither a hook nor bait. One long hook thing coming right up. Come to mama. Well, what have we got here then? A very soft pencil, a 7B. A broad paintbrush. A typical pocket tape measure. Looks like a wrench, and in fact is a wrench. The wrench fits. Now, let's just hope the mast doesn't fall when I remove the connector. How about that? Rope connector gone, mast still standing. A woman needs a little luck sometimes. Let's see. This can't be all that difficult. That ought to hold. Whoa, what a mess. Who did this? Hello? Professor Hartman? Strange. No one here. What the hell happened? I had to take a look around. Won't be attracting much interest on the local real estate market. A four-legged stand. I ought to leave the stand where it is. There's a fireplace here, but it's stone cold. The floorboards look pretty rotten. You want me to get a wood splinter? Even if the floorboards look rotten, you need something a little more heavy-duty than a manicured fingernail. A pipe. That's all I have to say about that. What I'd really like to know is what threw this great big locker all over the place. Feels kind of locked. Interesting storage method. That's how you keep your grub away from the hungry fauna. If I had a jetpack, then maybe. A four-legged stand. This winch holds the crate hanging from the cable. The crank is missing. It's a motion sensor. The working range of this sensor is 160 degrees. On the sensor it says working range 90 degrees. The wrench fits inside the pipe. The laws of leverage are your friends. My favorite occupation, plundering. Mostly fruit and veg. I'll leave that here and take everything else. This sensor has a working range of 75 degrees. This sensor has a working range of 120 degrees. The working range of this sensor is 160 degrees. A sleeping bag. Cuddly, warm, but also an accurate description of my ex-boyfriend. A small metal key. The mobile solar charger has to be assembled before it can be used. Dry wood. Should burn well. Huh, it fits. Another movement sensor. A laptop for outdoor use. Fully ruggedized. Well, it survived whatever hit the hut completely unscathed. A first aid box. How useful. A letter? The professor received this letter from his wife on their wedding anniversary. Turns out married, middle-aged people have very little of interest to say to one another. I'll check the first aid kit. Gauze bandages. Now all that's missing is someone to bind up. Pure alcohol. According to the sticker, that's Professor Hartman's laptop. Sadly, though, the battery's flat. A genuine sun trap. These rocks are getting hot in the sun. Bearing in mind I don't like puzzles, I've rather nailed that one, haven't I? We've got no end of solar energy here. But which device should I be powering up with it? I'll connect the solar charger to the laptop. I'll put the laptop and the solar charger here in the sun. Ugh, the laptop's protected by a code. A strip of adhesive tape. It's stuck pretty fast. I need something to scrape it off. Might leave a scratch, but the ends justify the means. Is that just the manufacturer's logo? It looks like wedding bands or something. Looks like some kind of diary. Sounds promising. Viruses that are responsible for evolutionary leaps? That story would be an absolute scoop. Now, is there any truth to these ghost stories? Shit. Looks like it's quite possible they're close by here. I need to be careful. At least I now know where I can find the professor. Only now all that's missing is any clue to where this Christian mission is. No saved mail. And if I was going to send or receive any, then I'd also need an internet connection. This is where Hartman saved the pictorial info from the current expedition. The map of the camp. Even the most ambitious scientist has to switch off every now and then. Can't wait to see what kind of music the prof's into. No forecast without the internet. And I don't need a laptop to see how the weather is right now. On the sensor it says, working range 90 degrees. This sensor has a working range of 120 degrees. I'm thinking that the sensor belongs on top of the stand. This sensor has a working range of 75 degrees. A sensor with a working range of 90 degrees. The working range of this sensor is 160 degrees. I'm thinking that the sensor belongs on top of the stand. This sensor has a working range of 75 degrees. I'm thinking that the sensor belongs on top of the stand. I'm thinking that the sensor belongs on top of the stand. Looks like the sensors are set up according to plan. Now I ought to make a fire. It'll keep me safe tonight, from the cold and whatever else is out there. Let's get cozy. All that's missing are marshmallows, a guitar, and some decent ghost stories. Mind you, given recent events, I can happily do without the latter. Before I go aimlessly tramping about in the jungle, I ought to be finding out what happened here, and where the scientists have disappeared to. The map of the camp. A map of the region to the south of the Bosumtwi. Aha! That over there to the west has to be the mission that Hartman wrote about in his notes. It doesn't make sense to set off for the mission now. I don't want to be wandering about in the jungle after dark. I'll spend the night here in the camp. Chasing after our scientists will have to wait until tomorrow. There. All done. Now I'm gonna get some shut-eye. And in the morning, I'll head to the mission and track down this research team.